Advertising can be one of the hardest parts of running a business. Audience in Motion is here to help. Arm your business with our state-of-the-art ad tech at a price tailored to budgets of all sizes. Contact your local Audience in Motion representative to learn more today at audienceinmotion.net.
If money affects your life in any way, Money Making Sense will talk about it. Be financially healthy, wealthy, and wise. Here's your host, Heather Kelly.
Welcome to Money Making Sense, the show that talks about all things money. Today, we're talking about how do you think about your money. Joining me today is Melissa Myers. She is a certified financial planner and the co-founder of Kar-Mel Financial Planners. So welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thanks, Heather. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I have talked about this quite a bit over the years, in particular, budget. Budget is a bad word when it comes to money. It's like diet, you know?
Right. It seems punitive and restrictive and not fun.
Right, exactly. And so if people are struggling trying to make it from paycheck to paycheck, it just compounds that stress to then feel like I have to budget when you think of it in a bad way. You've come up with several tips to help us change our thinking about what our money is and how we're supposed to use it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of those tips?
Let's start with thinking about our mindset and changing the word budget to something that's more empowering and more fun, and that is think of money as a tool. And when we think of it as a tool, the budget or the framework is just another tool in the toolbox. And we can think about a budget and it seems limiting, but if we think about a spending plan, now we get to spend money, right? So instead of limiting what we can spend, now we have permission to spend. And so if we think about whatever word we want to use for it, a lifestyle plan,
right,
we can then have some of the freedom that our mind can give us, because our mind is a powerful tool as well. And so we need to trick our mind to let us know that this is actually something that's good for us, even if it's just by a simple word change.
I kind of like the spending plan idea. I've been calling it allocating my paycheck for a good dozen years now. I feel like I know I have to allocate a certain amount of money to my mortgage or to my rent, whatever that is. I may have to allocate some money to my car payment if I'm still paying off the car. So that's what I've been doing. But I kind of like spending plan because, as much as you may not like writing out $1,000 check or more for your mortgage or rent, that you are spending, you're spending your paycheck, your money, to keep you with a roof over your head.
Yeah, you think about what's important, and you really do have to prioritize. Most of us would all agree that having a place to live and the utilities and the taxes and the insurance, those are all components of maintaining our household, whatever that might be, a home or an apartment, etc. And so then what else is important besides having a place to lay our head at night? Having nutrition. So food and our house are important things. And then most of us, well, maybe not right now, we might not have to drive far, but there's the transportation component. So really laying out what is a need, going back to the basics we were taught years ago, what the difference between a need and a want, and putting those needs as your priorities. It then allows you to start thinking in terms of fun money. And I'll tell you, fun money, especially for retirees, it's the part of their finances that even if they've done a really good job of saving, it can get them into problems and trouble, because every day is a Saturday when you're retired.
Right.
New retirees.
Right. And actually, I do like that because it makes you feel more free when you call it a spending plan. But I am one who I love to spend money on food. Not just takeout or anything, but I will go crazy in the gourmet cheese department and then go home and make a dish of $25 macaroni and cheese, and which that too could get me into trouble. So even if we call it a spending plan, which sounds a little more freeing, it doesn't mean it's a free for all.
Right, because we still have to go back in our prioritization list and think about what's really necessary, and then find out. So this is where somebody like me can be really helpful, is finding out if you're on track for all of your other future goals. I have no problem with clients or myself having luxury items or taking a trip that's a little bit more extravagant, or living the good life, because life is short. And so if something that you consider is a treat or a bonus or a luxury, as long as that doesn't derail you from your long-term goals, I say go for it. But you have to have permission that is based in a level of competency and expertise to know that as long as you maintain your current standard of living,
right,
and you buy this luxury cheese for your awesome macaroni and cheese, which I'd love an invitation, then it's okay to indulge, because you can't take it with you.
That's true. So the first thing you would want to look at, I'm guessing, is if I bring home $2,000 a month. I know that's kind of low, but that's sort of easier numbers to kind of work with.
Sure.
If I bring home $2,000 a month and my rent or my mortgage is $800 a month, that leaves me $1,200 left for the entire month for food, any credit card bills. Hopefully I'm not running those up, but in case you have those, or a car payment, something like that. And then whatever you have left over after you've paid those necessities that you talk about, should I just automatically go to fund money, or what's the next step after I pay for the roof over my head, my food, and any outstanding bills?
I'm a big advocate for self-development and continuing to learn and educate and grow over time. And a lot of the resources we have available today online, books, the library, whatnot, they can be inexpensive or free even. What I find is that there is a lot of value in having accountability through a coach. And so even if you're not looking to go back to school, it may be very helpful to allocate some money to self-development. And that can be the component that then it's like the key that unlocks the door to maybe having a higher income, so that you can have more disposable cash to do more of the fun and the discretionary spending. But in that, when you invest in yourself and self-development, it's a way that you're paying yourself first. So I think that self-development is really important. So if you had, say, $300 left over, maybe $100 goes to self-development or enrichment. I mean, even just going to a museum is awesome, right? Because we expand our mind and we grow, and we might even meet somebody. And, there's that whole qualitative
I'm going to the museum to pick up a guy. Yes, I see it.
Right. And self-development, but then, saving for a rainy day is really important. But I flip the switch on that one too. I call them sunny day funds. So instead of a rainy day fund, I have sunny day funds for myself and for my clients. And then there's the longer term. Most of us don't want to work forever. I do teach my clients how to have a work optional lifestyle, which means that they get to the point where they can choose. They've got their ducks in a row, financially speaking, and they know at what point they could choose to no longer work. But a lot of my clients love what they do and they never want to retire. And so then that opens up the door to being more generous with their money, or taking that extra vacation and having more fun in life.
Okay, we do need to take a break. When we come back, we'll go a little bit more into where this possible extra money we have after we use our spending plan to pay for all the necessities, what we have left over, what we do with that as well. So we'll be right back with Melissa Myers. She is a certified financial planner and the co-founder of Kar-Mel Financial Planners.
Advertising can be one of the hardest parts of running a business. Audience in Motion is here to help. Arm your business with our state-of-the-art ad tech priced to fit budgets of all sizes. Contact your local Audience in Motion representative to learn more today at audienceinmotion.net.
Welcome back to Money Making Sense, the show that if it affects your life in any way, money-wise, we're going to talk about it. Today we are talking about allocating your paycheck or having a spending plan. This is not a budget. That's a bad word. That sometimes means diet for a lot of people, and you don't want to diet on your income. So joining me today is Melissa Myers. She's a certified financial planner and co-founder of Kar-Mel Financial Planners. So welcome back to the show, Melissa.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
In the last segment, we went over a little bit of changing your mindset. And I actually really like spending plan. It makes me feel like, oh, well, that's what I'm earning money for, is so I can go spend it. Now, do I have to spend that to keep the roof over my head? Yes. And I've been saying allocate, like I allocate that paycheck, portion of the paycheck for my mortgage and other necessities. But just because it's a necessity doesn't mean you can't make it fun by saying, hey, I get to spend this paycheck. And it's something that you appreciate having. I hope most people do appreciate having a roof over their head.
Right. Well, and one of the things that I do is I have a separate account that is dedicated to housing expenses. Our mortgage and our insurance are not escrowed. And so I make a payment into that dedicated account every single month so that when the property taxes are due, I have that money. And instead of thinking of it in a kind of like a depressed sense, like, oh, I have to pay my taxes, I look at it and go, when I write out that check, I'm excited and I'm grateful. And I have gratitude that money is there. And it's there because I instilled the discipline months prior. But I choose to look at it as I have the privilege to be able to write this check. Same thing when it comes time for homeowners insurance.
Yeah, I have several different savings accounts, and they're all for different reasons. I spent many, many years building up what I call my 6-month emergency plan. And that's if I lost my job, I do have about 6 months worth of savings in there that will cover everything. That is in a high yield savings account. So it's actually earning more interest than just my regular checking account would. And then I have a separate savings account that is for my HOA dues. When I bought the home, I had a little bit of extra money, so I put away 3 years worth of HOA. That 6-month emergency fund I have doesn't even include the HOA fees. That's in a totally separate account, just in case they have special assessments. Sometimes they want to repair all the roofs in the community, or they want to repave the driveways. So even if I'm not using it on monthly HOA dues, I have this little fund that is specifically just for HOA expenses.
Yeah, the unexpected.
Right. And then I have that, I think what you were calling the rainy day fund, but you said you turned it around. You called it a sunny day fund.
Sunny day fund.
Right.
Yes.
And this one I have immediate access to. The other two accounts, if I had a wild hair and went, I want something, and I think I've got all this money over here, and I try to get the money, it takes 5 days. From the time I request it till I get it, it will take 5 days to get to me. So it's not like I can just grab
That's
it.
an excellent strategy. You keep yourself from yourself, right?
Right, exactly. But I do have one fund that I can get to immediately, and that's if flat tire, something happens, then I have the money there that I can just grab and pay for the flat tire. And I don't have to take any money out of the paycheck I'm getting that month. So I don't feel like I'm, robbing from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, and then it keeps you on track for your other goals because you just build it in.
Right.
As part of your normal spending. You're spending it even though you're saving it.
Right. So part of my spending plan from my paycheck is, pay the mortgage, all that stuff. But some months, it's only $10. But $10 every month for 10 years, that's a couple $1,000s.
Yeah.
So,
and, I find a couple of categories where spending can kind of be out of control, but in a very quiet way. When I'm interviewing a potential client and we're talking about spending, and particularly the lifestyle spending, like going out to eat. Well, how much do you spend going out to eat? The common response is, well, not that much.
Oh.
Well, how much do you think? And so I prompt through these questions to really get to how often, and then, we don't even pull out the checkbook. We're not doing checkbook forensics at that point, but we are getting clear as to how many times a week, how much is it? Well, does that include the tip? And so the more detailed you are, even if it's still ballparking, but if you can put it all in there, then you realize what you think is $30 a week is actually $150 a week.
Right. So
which gives more clarity.
Do you have like worksheets where people can, whether it's online or actually a printout? I know like for myself, I still love pen and paper. I love to write it out. Do you have like worksheets where you would have people plug in, this is my income every single month, and now you have them plug in exactly what their mortgage is, what they think they're spending on food out, or figure out what they really are, so that they put in all those numbers and then they know at the end of each month what they should have left over?
I do. I have different tools that I use. And, it's important for somebody in my position to really meet a client where they're at in terms of the way that the client will best use the tools. So to your point, Heather, like some people are best with just getting out a yellow legal pad and writing numbers down, pen to paper, right? Mm-hmm. For some, that's easy, because some people, if you said, okay, the way we're going to look at your numbers, your income and your expenses, we're going to use this computer program. Some people are on the computer so much that being on it again, for their personal stuff just seems like it's work and they don't want to do it. Or, some people just don't like computers or don't know how yet. And so there's those types of processes that we have to be cognizant of what's going to be most effective. And the one that's going to be most effective is the tool that you'll use. So whether it's pen to paper, if it's a spreadsheet, if it's a computer program, inside of my financial planning practice, I have a program that clients get when they become one of my clients, that they can use to track it. And it's really neat because it's an aggregator, and there's other aggregators out there that are free that you can use, and it shows where your income comes from and where your money goes. And you can put categories to it, so it can be more systematized and be more efficient, because everybody likes to save time and save money.
Right. If I came to you, I'm like, Melissa, I can't make it every month. I'm constantly putting stuff on the credit card the last week or 10 days of the month because I don't have any money left in the checking account because, I don't know where it went. How do you get me to understand changing that mindset?
We focus on what's really important to you. We look at your values. So instead, like in a first appointment that I have with a client, we don't even talk numbers. We have a conversation. The goal is to make sure it's going to be a good working relationship, and that what is important to you, what you're struggling with, what you're frustrated by, what you're challenged by, is something that I can actually deliver. So we have a conversation about that. And then in the next appointment is when we start digging into the numbers. And at the end of that appointment, you have a lot of clarity about where your money is coming from, but more importantly, where it's going. Because the idea, right, if we want to build wealth, is to not spend as much as we possibly can. It's to live within our means. We've all heard that before. And that means setting aside some of our money for the future. And then being prudent about where that money goes to make sure it's maximizing. Like you mentioned, that one of your accounts that you don't touch very frequently is in more of a high yield account. So that is a good strategy to make more money on it. And you don't even have to do anything, right?
Right.
So you're leveraging your time and your money. You don't have to spend your time to make more money on that piece of money. The account is doing it for you.
Have you had any clients that are just really resistant and finally somewhere along the way, like the light bulb goes off?
I would say by the time somebody comes to me, they know we're going to be digging into the numbers. So what I've found, though, is they're not as resistant, but there's some embarrassment there. There's shame. There's fear of being judged. And once they realize that that's not what they'll get, because I'm all about helping people get what they want in life. My whole thing is, I don't even care if it's not financial related. If you got a problem, like, hey, let's brainstorm. Let's figure this out. Even if I'm not the person, I know a lot of people. I can connect you and like, let's help you accomplish your goals. Right. And so it doesn't matter what your goals are, but particularly when it comes to finances, and I'm working with a financial planning client. I have a client that recently retired, little over a year ago, but we had been laying the foundation for about 2 years before that, because she was living paycheck to paycheck and she made good money. She was one of those ladies who made good money. She was a widow, still working as a widow, but she didn't know where her money was going. And she also didn't really know why. And by going through that values process and figuring out what was really important to her, we were able to map out the different directions that her money needed to go. So once she got paid from her various sources of income, some of her money she put into longer term accounts. Some of it was more short term. She has animals. Animals can be expensive, the vet bill and that kind of thing. And that was a priority to her. And so we wanted to make sure that her pets didn't cause her to go into debt because she didn't have money. So now she has a dedicated account for pets. And the time that she's been retired and that she's been using, she does have some cash envelopes for more frequent spending. Like if she goes to Kohl's, she wants to pay cash for a shirt or something.
Right.
But then she has the less frequent, like going to the vet or taking a vacation. And I asked her, how's it going? Like, how much have you, ever had saved? Have you ever had anything more in your bank accounts than you've ever had now? And she said, no, I always lived paycheck to paycheck. I was lucky if there was $50 in the account before my next paycheck. And now she has several thousand in her bank accounts in her envelopes. Shoulders up by the ears. That's how a lot of times she would come to the appointments, and now they're down and she's got more confidence and pep and she's not afraid. And it's just really awesome to see how it's transformed her just by taking control of the money on a day-to-day basis. It's not, for her, it wasn't the long-term money. It wasn't having to learn about the stock market or investing in mutual funds, anything like that. It was about how to take control of her money on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the cash envelopes, because I use those for a gas in my car. And there's several reasons for that. I have a longer commute than a lot of people, and it's at 4 a.m. So I'm filling up my car like every 5 or 6 days. But I don't trust. You pull up to a gas station and you pretty much everybody just sticks a credit card in there. And those are so rife. Those scammers put on the credit card, I forget what they call them. That's how many scammers get your credit card information, is because they put a fake credit card slider in there and it steals your information. And I will not do that. I'm like, I'm sorry. There's enough breaches everywhere on every other company. I don't need to personally stick my own credit card in somewhere and have somebody steal it. That's why I always pay cash for my gas in my car, because you never know where that's going to happen.
Yeah. If I may, that brings up another idea that for people who may be hesitant to buy things online and make online purchases because they're afraid of all of their money kind of disappearing. And of course, if you're using a check card, you can retrieve that. I have for a long time, I have a separate account that is for internet purchases only. And right before I hit the purchase button, I will transfer money from my regular bank account into my internet purchases account. And then that way, if that account gets compromised, it's only that particular account, my internet account, that's at risk. And it doesn't disrupt, it doesn't detract as much from what they could take, that, the whole balance of a larger account.
Right.
And I actually did have it happen where that account was compromised and they kind of fished. And I don't know how it all happened, but I was able to go to my bank and say, look at this transaction. And the dollar amount came in, like they did a couple of transactions, and the dollar amount that they took was just under what I bought.
Oh my gosh.
In the money that was in the account.
Yeah.
So somehow But the idea is if you have a dedicated account that's only for internet accounts or internet purchases, then you don't run the risk of having all of your money pulled out of your account and then having to go through the hassle of retrieving it.
Yeah, because if I had a credit card attached to that 6-month savings fund that I have, and I was using that credit card to make a few purchases from time to time and somebody stole it, the information from it, my 6 months worth of savings would be wiped out. And that took me a good 10 years to build up. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't in a year, but it was almost 10 years it took me to get that built up. So I love that you have just one spending account and you only transfer money to it right before you're about to make a separate purchase. So that's a really good idea. Okay. I may have another account coming in my future. I'll have to think about that. All right. Anything else that we need to explain to the listeners about changing their mindset of how they use their money, their income that they have?
Think of it as your lifestyle and what you want in your lifestyle now as well as in the future. And sometimes it means that you have to make choices to give up some of your time by investing in yourself so you can make more money, or you just get creative and think about the knowledge and the skills that you have, because it's not, I really believe that there's always ways we can save money.
Right.
And so 2 things with that. If you save money, so for example, let's say you called up your cell phone carrier and you were able to negotiate and you save $48 a month. Well, that's a pretty good savings. Most of the time, we feel like we just won the hugest battle ever because we got our savings of $48. What I think is more important is what we choose then to do with that $48, to redirect it to something that's purposeful. And the thing that you can do is you can put it all towards something like debt, or you can put it towards something that you've been denying yourself. That would be more of the fun money and the things that we want, or you could split it between the two. The thing is if you go through the whole process, and it's a process when you're trying to negotiate your cable bill or your phone, right? If you're going to go through that, don't just let that money sit in your bank account, the money that you've saved, because it'll just get frittered away. So be intentional about where you redirect the savings. And when you do something smart with your money, give yourself a little reward.
Okay, I like that. And Melissa, if people want to get a hold of you or they have questions, where can somebody go to get a hold of you?
My website is a great starting point. It's karmelfp.com, and that's spelled KARMEL, F like financial, P like planners.com. KarmelFP.com.
And you have a book coming out called Going Rogue, The Unconventional Financial Strategies for Women. So, and I love that because in our society, it's getting a little bit better. Women have struggled historically with understanding their money just because of how our society works. But the information in this book isn't just for women, is it?
I think if a man wants to read the book, he'll probably be entertained. But yes, there's strategies that apply for both men and women. But the crux of it is really to empower women with money so that they can live their ideal life. And you get to that point of living your ideal life by aligning your money with your values. And then you can live your ideal life. And once you're in that space of really feeling like you're firing on all cylinders, then it gives you the ability and the mental freedom to be a blessing to others, because you maybe don't have to work so much. You can spend time volunteering and giving back, or you can keep working and keep, and write a bigger check than you maybe normally would. So I just want to help make the world a better place and do that with empowering women with money.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Melissa Myers. Again, you are a certified financial planner and the co-founder of Kar-Mel Financial Planners. And it's been great to talk to you about it's not a budget. I don't know how many times I've said don't use the word budget, and I love your take on it. Thanks for listening. You can email me with any questions or topics you want to hear about at hkelly@ksl.com. That's HKELLY@ksl.com. And because this is Money Making Sense, you can subscribe for free on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. And and you'll never miss another episode.
Thanks for being a Money Making Sense listener. Follow your common sense onto social media. Money Making Sense on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold. Our brand new second season focuses on the 1985 disappearance of a woman named Joyce Yost. Hear her voice for the first time. That's Cold Season 2, exclusively on Amazon Music.